Welcome back to another episode of Grace and Grit. I am your host, Artrice LaNae. Today's episode is kind of a part two of the first episode. A part two, just really more so explaining my journey back to Christ, explaining what happened in that journey, explaining just all of the different things that were taking place within me, around me, and kind of just diving all the way in to explain what that looked like and potentially what it might look for you and what that means. So, I'm going to jump right on in. So, as I mentioned in my first episode, I talked about kind of what my wilderness season was and what that included and what that entailed. And I was explaining just what my wilderness season was and all of the different things that were going on. And what I felt like God was telling me to truly come back to Him. And this episode is really going to dive into kind of what happened after the weekend of July 11th and 12th. I mentioned to you all of those things that happened, the emotions I felt, the different things I was seeing and hearing clearly for the first time, what I was actually understanding and um, just being able to actually take a hold of to be able to move in the way that God wanted me to. And so, what happened after that weekend? Well, what happened was a 7-day fast towards the end of July. So, that weekend was July 11th and 12th. I'm going through just honestly doing Bible studies by myself every single day, like finding a new chapter, finding a new story, finding new characters, and doing Bible studies every single day. I'm still off of social media at this point. So, there is a little bit of a distance and sometimes what felt like a disconnect, but I recognize that it wasn't. I was never necessarily disconnected from God. I was just disconnected from the world. And so I wasn't aware of the climate that we were in as a country. I was aware of obviously certain things. I wasn't oblivious to things because I still have to work day to day. And the news is very important, but I was limiting the amount of consumption I was taking of the news because it wasn't necessarily the best thing for me at the time, just being honest. And so I'm doing these Bible studies by myself. I'm praying all of the time. I feel God telling me and pushing me to pray even more. And it felt weird for a minute, if I'm being honest. It felt like it was out of my comfort zone. Not weird in a bad way, but just I was uncomfortable. And I think that's what that entire season was. And so towards the end of July, I heard God tell me, I want you to walk every single day for the month of August. And I was like, okay, well, before that happens, I want to go on a fast. I felt like I needed to go on a fast. I've had this eye-opening moment with me, myself, and God just in my own home. And I felt like I needed to really hit the reset button. Like, it's one thing to pray, it's one thing to recognize what you're hearing and actually taking it and applying it to your life. It's another thing to kind of reset what you've heard and then go out and live your life with those same, like applying those same tools, resources, guidance, all of those things. So I went on a 7-day fast at the end of July, and the fast literally ended the last day of July. And I told God, I was like, I need to be in your church. Like, I need to be in your house when this fast ends. I need to be around. I need to be in an atmosphere where your presence, your spirit is felt. I need to be in an atmosphere where I'm just crying my heart out to you. Like, I've obviously done that here in the comfort of my own home, but I need to do that with you and with your people. And I need to be in an environment where people are praying over me and covering me. And I really just need to be in your house. And I said, I don't know how I'm supposed to find a church that's just going to randomly be doing a service or an altar night or a worship night or whatever. I didn't know where to find that. And by the grace of God, I just found there's a church here in DC, and they ended up having an altar call that night. And the church is the gathering place here in DC. So if you are in DC, I highly recommend you go. I also still love my church, Alfred Street Baptist Church, my home, truly, truly my home church. But I went to go visit the gathering place this night because they were having an altar night the last night of my fast. And so I said, perfect. I called my friend JoJo. I said, hey, are you available to go with me to this altar night? She said, absolutely, let's go. So we went. The amazing guest for that night was Miranda Curtis, who is a singer. I believe she's also a pastor and a teacher, and just an amazing human being. And so she's coming in, and she's not just worshiping. And if you've never been to an altar nights kind of differ depending on the church and depending on the style, honestly. But I was raised missionary Baptist, but we had like Pentecostal kind of flavor to us. And we visit Pentecostal kind of churches and things that I'm used to all types of church, if you will. And as I got older, and especially once I moved here to the DMV, I really took my faith a lot more seriously. So I didn't want to limit God to just the way that my church necessarily experiences God, right? And so I'm going to the Gathering Place, and they are a non-denominational church, but Miranda Curtis, the way she opens up this altar night, she opens up in worship, but it was the type of worship in which she opened up in. She opened up in such a space of, we're about to pour everything out on this altar tonight. Like, this is about to be, you're releasing everything tonight. You're releasing your fears, you're releasing your anxieties, you're releasing your worries, you're releasing your shortcomings. We are releasing everything tonight and giving it to God. And then after we're done releasing, we're going to get up. We're going to be filled up. We're going to be charged up, if you will, to then go out and do what He has told us to do. And when you are in a vulnerable place, as I was during that fast and just during all of July, honestly, I was so open and kind of just open to receive anything. I was open to receive a word. I was open to receive criticism. I was open to receive just anything, to say, God, I need you to change the circumstance. I need you to change literally everything about me, because I cannot and I will not continue to go on in a way that is not pleasing in your sight. I will not go on in a way that is not, honoring who you've called me to be and who you've told me to be. And so she opens up this altar night in worship. And I don't know if you've ever been to an altar night, but I can confidently say, and I've been to many altar nights, I can confidently say that this altar night will forever hold a special place in my heart, because while July 11th and 12th were like the true reset for me to understand and hear God clearly, that altar night was the night where I had to put on my big girl panties. I had to put on my big girl clothes and really own up to the mistakes that I had made. But then I was also filled up. And that is what was so powerful and life-changing about that altar night, was that I emptied everything out. Like I emptied out every single part of me that I knew was not being obedient to God. I emptied out every single part of me that I knew was not holding, being held up to the standard that God had set for me. I was emptying myself out, like just saying, God, I'm giving you everything that I can. And while I give this to you, I need you to change it. I need you to make it right. I need you to fix it. And I was completely surrendering in that moment. At that altar night, I surrendered to everything. And I said, God, whatever you will have me do, whatever you want me to do, whatever you tell me to do, that's what I'm going to do from now on. I do not care about how it looks to other people. I don't want to care. I don't want to be bothered. I want to be concerned with whatever is going to bring your name the glory, the honor, and the praise. And so when you go on that journey to just surrendering to Him, and you're also in the atmosphere with other Christians, with other believers, with other people praying and covering over you, it does something to you. It frees you up of feeling like you have to be perfect. It frees you up from feeling as if you did something wrong. It frees you up from feeling like you messed up. Like, it just frees you up to say, God, whatever you want to change, it honestly, it not just freezes you up, it lets God work. You surrendering lets God be God. and it allows him and invites him to just work things out in your favor. It invites him to completely change your mindset, completely change your understanding of the world and the way you think, the actions you do. Like it allows God to be God, and so that he can do the work in you. And I was so grateful for that night. And anybody that was there that particular night, at the gathering place, I know that we were all changed. Like there was not one person that was not changed in that atmosphere. You can't be in an atmosphere like that and not be changed also. So that was another thing. But it truly was God taking his hand. I felt like he literally reached out his hand and touched me and said, if you just hold on to my hand, I promise I won't let it go. I promise I will take you where you need to go. I promise I will provide everything you need. I promise I will be right here with you. I just need you to trust me. And that's exactly what I did at that altar night. And so when you are emptied out and filled back up all within a couple of hours, your body goes through a lot of changes. It really, really does. And towards the end of that altar night, I felt God tell me, and I had kind of felt him tell me a little bit earlier in the week, but I felt him tell me, like, you need to walk with me every single day for the month of August, which I will talk about in another episode, because that in and of itself was a whole journey to understanding why I had to walk with him, what the walks meant, and all of those things. But I felt him really, really impress that on me. And so we're leaving the gathering place. I'm in the car with JoJo, and I said, I really, really feel that this is the marker for where things shift for me, where things are no longer the same, where I am no longer the same, where I have to be different, where I have to show up, where I have to be accountable to the things that he has told me. It's no longer just being able to say I'm a Christian and going about my day. It's being able to say I'm a Christian and actually walking that walk every single day, praying when I feel like going to sleep, being honest. You know what I mean? It's not, I think the thing that people don't understand about this Christian walk, or sometimes what people fail to understand or fail to want to recognize, is that if you are not actually walking out the walk, you don't get to see the changes. You don't get to see the miracles happen. You don't get to see, you might be witness to it, right? You might see it from afar, but to experience it yourself, it's one thing to say that you're a Christian. It's another thing to deny yourself every single day in order to live according to his word. It's another thing to make sacrifices, to be in obedience when you really want to be disobedient. And that's what I learned that's what I understood I was doing, was I was saying that I loved him, but I wasn't acting like I loved him. It's like the Bible talks about honoring your mother and your father. And I was guilty of this as a child. I would say I love my parents, but I didn't honor them. I didn't actually obey what they told me to do. I thought I knew better. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was saying, or how I should have been moving, or what I should have done. No. It's very, very clear in the Bible why they say honor your mother and your father so that your days may be long on this earth. It's another thing to say that you love Jesus, but then not actually abide by his life, and not abide by what the Bible tells you, and live out your life in the way that the Bible tells us to. So I had a real, real reckoning. So we leave the altar night, and I want to say either the next day or like a couple of days later, I had told God all of these things that I wanted, right? I've been emptied out, I've been refilled up, and now I feel like, okay, great. Now I can ask God for things. And God will chin check you, okay? Like he will check you. He will put you in your place really, really quickly, really, really fast. And it's what I love is that he does it graciously, and he does it understanding who you are and what you need to know and what you need to hear to be able to move and act. Now, it is still on you to move and act accordingly, right? But he does it so graciously that he says, you know what? I'm going to do it in a way that may make you uncomfortable. May make you uncomfortable. I may even do it in a way that you don't like, but I'm doing it because I understand you, because I created you, because I formed you. And I felt like the thing God was telling me to do, because I was asking him all of these questions of, when am I going to have my family? When am I going to have my husband? When am I going to have my kids? When am I going to be, happily married and all of these things? Which, by the way, my parents have been married for 26, almost 27 years. Okay. And I have seen their marriage firsthand because I'm an only child. I understand the ups and downs of marriage. I understand the sacrifices of marriage, not because I haven't been in one yet, but being able to witness it, right? And yet and still I was asking God, but I want a marriage. I want a godly marriage. I know that you're blessing me with somebody, right? And he said, Artrice, but you don't do the things I tell you to do now. I said, oh, you're right. You didn't have to, that was a little bit rude. um, but it was true. It was true. I was asking God for all of these things and I wasn't even stewarding what he gave me in front of me. I wasn't even being consistent over the things he told me to be consistent about 3 months ago, 2 years ago. And so I said, God, I want a family. I want a husband. I want all of these things. I want, the house, the car, the job, whatever it was. I was telling him all of these things. And he said, steward what I gave you today. Steward the garden I've given you today. Because what do you think is going to happen when I give you the kids? You think the kids are just going to be normal? Like, you think you're just not going to have any problems with your kids. You just think that your kids are going to obey you every single time you say something. You didn't even obey your own parents. That put me in check because I recognized that I didn't even have the tools to steward what I was asking for. And so sometimes when we ask God for things, instead of asking him for the outcome, instead of asking him for the final product, what we should be asking for is, God, if you decide to bless me with this, if you decide to grant me this opportunity, I really also am going to pray for the tools to steward it correctly. God, I actually know that I need to work in this area so that I can maintain what you give me. I actually need to humble myself so I understand what you're about to give me. Asking for the tools and the resources to steward what you want is actually probably a more effective prayer. Not saying that the prayer you're currently praying does not work. Let me be very, very clear, okay? But I'm saying sometimes we don't understand what it takes to maintain that thing. So for me, I was asking for a family, right? I'm asking for a husband. I'm asking for kids. And I don't even steward my house correctly. Everyone, of course, talks about the Proverbs 31 woman. Artrice, you're not even getting up consistently early enough to even run a household. What makes you think I can give you a household? What makes you think I trust you enough to give you a household, to run, to manage? And those are hard things to hear. They're not fun things to hear when you feel like you've done everything that you were supposed to do. They're not fun things to hear when you feel as if you've been overlooked. They're not fun things to hear when you're looking at everybody else and comparing yourself and saying, but God, they did this, they did that, yet and still you decided to give them that thing. That's what I was feeling. I was feeling as if I was being overlooked. I'm kind. I'm compassionate. I'm loving. I'm caring. I'm thoughtful. Why don't I have the thing? And God was very, very clear with me. Artrice, you need to ask for the tools to steward the thing that you want before I can trust you enough to give you the thing that you want. Be consistent in praying over your friends. And then maybe I'll think about giving you kids. And it's a real thing. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that God doesn't want to give us something. We don't want to hear that we're not prepared for the thing we're praying for. We assume that if we got the job, that we would just know how to do it immediately. Even if you start a new job, there's still a training period. So what I should be asking for is, God, prepare me for the training period. Let this training period, let this moment, instead of you asking for the next thing, instead of you asking for the opportunity, the job, the final product, whatever it is, ask for the tools and the resources to steward that thing. so that when it comes, you're not looking like a deer in headlights, trying to figure out how to make sense of it, trying to figure out how you have time, trying to figure out, do you have the resources, trying to figure out, trying to scrape by to make it make sense, make it fit when it doesn't. That was the other thing I learned, was that I was asking for these things, assuming that this was the puzzle piece I needed to fit into this perfect little picture, right? But the reality was I wasn't actually seeing the full picture. That's not the piece that goes there. That's not even really the piece that fits anywhere in the puzzle. Right now, the puzzle piece that I need is the one where I know how to get up every single morning without feeling tired, where I have a disciplined regiment routine, where I'm going to God before I go to my friends, where I'm asking God for guidance in the Bible before I gossip about something. Asking for the tools to steward the thing that you want is actually the prayer that we should be praying, is actually the prayer that we should be diligent over. I'm not saying this to say pray over the tools and, worry about not getting the tools. I'm saying pray and trust him. Pray and trust that if you say, God, I would like the tools and the understanding and the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to walk this thing out. If you decide to bless me with that, that's what we should be praying over. That's what we should be asking him for. That's the thing. And so, yes, it is difficult to have to humble yourself to recognize that you don't even actually have the tools to manage the thing you want. It's a real eye opener when you realize you don't have the capabilities to even steward the thing that you want the most. Because if he gave it to you right now, you wouldn't know what to do with it. If he gave it to you with the patience level you have now, you would not be able to manage it. And so sometimes instead of saying, God, I want this thing so bad, God, I actually really, really want the patience to be able to manage the kids. I actually would like the wisdom to know how to pour into my husband. Those are the things you should be asking for. The tools. And when he gives you the tools, he's also going to give you opportunities to work out those tools. Because just because you get a screwdriver doesn't necessarily mean every screwdriver fits every screw. There's a Phillips head, there's different types of screwdrivers. It doesn't necessarily mean every screwdriver fits every screw you're ever going to use. You have to learn and know how to operate other tools in your toolbox. You have to know which pieces go where. And then he's going to give you those opportunities to work it out, to figure out if you really, really know how to use it. Prime example, I asked God for patience. Verbatim, I said, God, I would like to work on my patience. The next day, I was put in traffic, standstill traffic for 45 minutes. I don't know about you, but that will test your patience, if nothing else. Being in traffic when you know you need to get somewhere, or running into traffic and you feel like people just don't know how to drive, because truly, what is traffic? Like, just go. Right? But the reality is, that was God saying, you asked for patience. Here's your opportunity to work out your patience. And so I did. Instead of rushing through the traffic, instead of being frustrated at the traffic, what I did was I took I took an index card and I wrote scripture on it and I pasted it, I taped it inside my car. So anytime I ran into traffic, anytime I ran into frustrations, I read that scripture, because that scripture helps me with my patience. And most of the time when I'm working out my patience or trying to grow in patience, it's when I'm in my car. So do things like that. Again, this is grace and grit. The grace is that God's going to give you the tools. The grit is now that you have to work out the tools and figure out ways to operate them. You have to figure out, what does this mean? What does this feel like? You have to understand the newness that he's giving you, the opportunities that he's giving you to be able to walk this thing out. So I recommend doing that. I literally have scripture up all over my house. I am not joking. Okay. I have a scripture in my bathroom. I have a scripture in my bedroom. I have a scripture in my kitchen. I have a scripture on the door before I walk out. And they're different scriptures for different reasons. In my bathroom and in my kitchen, they're both the same one, Jeremiah 33:6, because it talks about health and healing. And both the bathroom and my kitchen are healing places for me. I have to literally take care of my body physically on the outside in the bathroom, and then I have to physically take care of my body on the inside, what I put into my mouth. My door, before I go outside of my door, there's Psalms 91 on there. And it's a prayer of protection over my home and a prayer of protection over my car when I get to my car, blessing the roads. Like, take the tools that he's given you and apply it. I talked about this in the first episode. Utilize scripture, y'all. It's not there just for you to look at. It's there for you to actually apply it to your life. It's there for you to memorize. It's there for you so that you know what to pull from. There have been so many times I was trying to figure out during my consecration period, during my wilderness period, why he was having me memorize so much scripture. And I recognized that it's because when I came out, I needed to be able to have something to utilize. I had to have a reference point. I had to know what scripture to use for what situation. I had to be able to quickly recall what he told me, what his word said, so that I could apply it when I'm praying. I'm not just praying off of, God, I hope you hear me. I'm praying off of, God, I'm expecting you to show up because this is what your word says. And your word never returns to you void. So apply what he's giving you. Find the scripture that helps you with patience, that reminds you of why you need patience. Find the scripture that talks about the fruits of the Spirit in Galatians. Find the scripture that helps you in that situation at that time, so that when he gives you the tools, now you actually know how to work on them. Now you know how to use them. Now you know what to use for what situation. And so I had to, again, going back to the first episode, I had to trust God in the mundane. I had to work out the mundane. I couldn't just be okay with just being a Christian, saying that I was a Christian. I had to actually walk this thing out. And then the month of August was me walking every single day. And what I recognized with walking was that God was telling me, I want you to walk with me because you've only known me when you're soaring. You only know me when you're flying. You only know me when you're running. You don't know what it feels like to walk with me. Imagine going up a mountain, right? And at a halfway point, something picks you up and you just get to fly the rest of the way to the top of the mountain. Now imagine having to walk up that mountain. That's a very different physical exhaustion on your body. That's a very different mental exhaustion on your body. That's a very different emotional journey that you're going through. Having to walk up a mountain is not the same as being able to fly up that mountain. Is not the same as being able to soar up that mountain. And so that's what God was giving me. He was giving me the opportunity to walk with him, to build the endurance. That's literally what it was all of August. I walked every single day in the month of August for about at minimum 3 miles a day, but most of the time 5 to 8 miles a day. And I was doing that because I had to build my endurance. And I was doing that because I needed to know what it felt like to walk with him, just walking with him. I needed to know what it felt like when I thought my legs were going to give out. I needed to know what it felt like when I thought I wasn't going to have the energy to do it, or to go another mile, or to go another 30 minutes. I needed to know what it felt like in my body to just walk with him. God, I just want to walk with you today. So choose that. Let that be a part of your grit. Let that be the lesson you take away from this episode. Walk with him. Literally go on a walk. And I'm not joking, y'all. I would walk like 8 miles a day and just talk to him all 8 miles. Just talk to him. Wait and listen for him. I would go on the walks outside. So looking at nature and saying, God, what are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to show me? literally getting lessons from squirrels running up the tree. Like, if you take the time to slow down and walk with him, you're just putting one foot in front of the other, nothing else. You're not running, you're not climbing, you're not, again, you're not flying, you're just walking with him. And I found so many similarities in the fact that when Jesus was literally walking this earth, he and his disciples walked everywhere. They walked. And so why do we feel like we don't have to walk with him? So I challenge you to walk with him today, whether that be for the next 30 days, whether that be for the next week. Just walk with him every single day and watch him show you something different about yourself, about his word, and then apply whatever he tells you through those walks in your life. If he's telling you to be more kind and compassionate, if he's telling you not to worry, if he's telling you to take the leap of faith, if he's telling you to be quiet in this moment, if he's telling you to work in this moment, whatever he tells you on that walk, apply it in real time. I also challenge you, because again, this is Grace and Grit, I also challenge you to find scripture for the top 3 things that you are worrying about today. Whatever it is, if it's your job, if it's your house, if it's your financial situation, if it's your friends, if it's your relationships, if it's your family, find scripture and apply it to what you are praying for, what you are asking God in expectancy of. And when you find the scripture, then ask for the tools to steward it. So if you're praying over your family, find the scripture that talks about your family, of what you want your family to be representative of according to his word. And then ask for the tools to be able to steward that coming to fruition. If you're asking for patience, find the scripture that talks about patience, but just understand you're going to have moments where that patience is going to be tested. So ask for the tools to steward the patience that is being built on the inside of you, that's growing on the inside of you. God's going to make an investment in you, but he wants to know that there's a return on his investment. And that means you're going to be given opportunities to show that you understand what he's investing in. He's not just investing in the version of you right now. He's investing in the version of you that he created and called into this earth. When he thought about you with a specificity. And because of that, it's now your obligation. You have free will to do what you will. But now it's your obligation, it's your responsibility to carry out and to steward what he gives you, to steward the blessings, to steward the opportunities. Ask him for the tools, ask him for the resources, and then apply his word and remind him of what he said he was going to do. I promise you he'll show up. Maybe not in the way that you think, maybe not in the way that you want, but he will show up. Allow him the opportunity to show up. So that is it for this Grace and Grit episode. Thank you all so much for joining me. It has been a journey and it's only episode 2. So I'm so excited to be able to continue to go on this journey with you. Remind yourselves that God's grace and mercy covers you and is new every single day. But the grit of this life requires you to be able to walk out what he's telling you. It's going to get gritty, y'all. It is gritty. It's the nature of this life, but you can do it with him and with his word. Thank you so much for joining me, your host, Artrice LaNae, and I will catch you guys next time.